Does focus stifle experimentation? Hola, hi. That's today's question, I guess. For me personally, when I look at that, is that I know kind of both extremes. When I have tried in the past to get everything down, how often you're told to in terms of goals, have your strategy exactly the way how you're supposed to do it, it can feel very stifling to me as someone who loves being experimental and creative. Maybe also because I go a little bit to the extreme. So once I have this strategy, I can get very rigid, doing it exactly the way I am supposed to be doing it. So I would call this maybe a little bit an over-focus. And the other extreme would be having no focus at all, which to me feels a little bit like floating, and where I end up maybe not doing anything anymore, or I even have forgotten why I'm doing what. And so I think that focus and experimentation can actually go together. So if my focus is, for example, I want to grow my YouTube channel, but I don't know quite how, so I experiment with many different things. So we have a little bit of both. If I want to, I don't know, what else could I choose? Yes, I can have a focus within an art project, like, for example, do 100 things of something specific like dances, but what kind of dances I'm gonna do or what kind of music could be open. So I think it's finding a focus that allows for experimentation within that, because then if, for example, the focus was really to grow the YouTube channel, but you left it open how to grow it, you can then look back at it and go through your videos and say, okay, this one really seems to attract new people and this one doesn't, and then you can do more of that. That's what I call experimentation versus having figured it out already. You know exactly the niche, you know exactly what kind of videos you're gonna do, how structured they are. That is very, very focused down to a T. And I also would say this is a very personal thing, because there are certain people who need a lot of focus to that just suits them, and then there are other people who need maybe a broader focus and then be able to experiment within that. And I think why that is maybe so, I guess, difficult to combine is because it feels like two very different energies. You know, the creative spirit in a way loves just to have 1,000 of ideas, loves to try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that, maybe also is more into the new things instead of going deeper in one area, whereas the focus seems to be, I would say, maybe more the analytical mind, yes? More being clear on what you want, why you want it, how you go for it. And so it seems like two different, very different forces. And maybe the magic lies in living in this tension. I have talked about the paradox before, but kind of holding those two things like a paradox and see in between that what suits you. And I think it depends really very much on each thing you're undertaking, how much focus you want to add in and how much experimentation each of those things need. And maybe you could even replace focus on if you were a scientist and you were having an experiment. You're still trying to find something out, isn't it? You're not just experimenting on anything. So there is kind of like finding out what works best for a certain thing, and how broad that subject is depends very much on you. So I think if it does focus, too much focus can kill experimentation. No focus at all doesn't even allow any experimentation at all. So this is maybe one of those things that are just paradoxical, I guess. Yes. So I would love to hear from you what you're thinking about this. This is Anja, Creative Rebel. May you create freely and come alive. Bye-bye. Whoops.